What's good, YouTube? It's cuddleofdeath here. Happy day, woo! And we are back with our Week 3 United Championship League battle. This week we are actually taking on Shadypenguinn, the coach of the New York Mankeys. I was very worried. I mean, currently under our belt prior to this, if you guys have been keeping up with the UCL, we have had two battles which have been losses. And this week, you know, going up against Shady's been in the GBA and stuff before, and he is quite a formidable opponent. He currently has on his team for this week Regirock, Landorus Therian, Infernape, Mew, Milotic, and his Jolteon, while I have Galvantula, Ferrothorn, Salamence, my Latias, my freaking Heatran, and my Dusknoir. Of course, the Pharaoh Heatran combo is in this, and whenever I was team building originally, I was trying to figure out who do I want as my attackers and my, defensive walls. I kind of wanted to build a team that was a bit confusing. Having Ferrothorn, Latias, Heatran, and Dusknoir, all of them can be some sort of walls, and my Ferrothorn is actually an attacker. He was built a little bit as a joke, but at the same time, I kind of wanted to try something a little bit different. This Ferrothorn has Quick Claw. And before you guys tear me apart in the comment section, you can run a choice banded Ferrothorn or whatever, but keep in mind that UCL is just for fun. And the reason why I decided to run him as Quick Claw instead of choice band was because I might get Spike set up or something like that, and it would just be funny to see a Haxie item like Quick Claw activate. Outside of that, once again, looking at his team, I expected the Landorus, and seeing Mew on his team, I'm like, okay, that's probably one of his walls, and it's going to be his only defogger. He's got actually a few leads here. He has his Jolteon, his Landorus, and his Infernape if he wants to. But I kind of predicted at the beginning of this battle that he would lead with his Jolteon. Still looking at his team though, and because my Galvantula this time is focus sashed, it's pretty easy for me to run sticky webs against his draft. But instead of talking about the teams, we're going to go straight into the battle, and I'll see you guys here in a moment. Also, if you guys would like to support the Tulsa Talonflames, keep in mind that t-shirts are available. I'll have the link in the description, or you can head on over to teespring.com/teamtt. Okay, I'll see you guys in a moment. Okay, so we are now officially kicking off this week's UCL battle here. I lead with my Galvantula Spoderman as another joke name. He goes into Mayhem, which is his Jolteon, so obviously I couldn't Volt Switch if I even had it here, which I'm not actually running Volt Switch just because I figured he would have his Jolteon on his team, and Volt Absorb is not fun to mess with. He immediately goes into Mew, predicting my Sticky Web, and that's perfectly okay because I actually predict he's going to defog, so I go for a Bug Buzz here, which does a fair amount on his Mew, so I'm assuming it's a bold Mew, so it's his nice little defensive wall. He goes for a defog, and I'm like, alright, that's fine, that's fair, whatever, it's not really that bad. And here I could have actually switched, but I predicted that maybe he would have maybe he was gonna run something like Ice Beam or something that would have done decent damage to me, but instead he switches out into his Landorus, takes a Bug Buzz, which is actually a crit. Funnily enough, against Shady, we do a fair amount of damage there. I could have stayed in, but I was feeling like his Landorus was Choice Scarfed, so I do have Hidden Power Ice there on my Galvantula. He goes for the Stone Edge and misses, which is really bad for him. He switches into his Milotic, and I assume he was predicting my Will-O-Wisp to activate Marvel Scale, which is okay for me because I don't mind sticking in here with my Dusknoir because Dusknoir can take hits and we're against another wall ourselves. So let's go for a Shadow Sneak doing shit for damage, which is okay. I knew it wasn't really gonna do a whole lot of damage, but some damage is better than no damage. He gets a critical hit Scald, fortunately enough for me. He does not get a burn here. And I know, my Milotic loves to just try to stall out, going for the Scald to try to get the burn on my Dusknoir, which would make him even more weak. Also, I know it likes to recover, so I went ahead and went for a taunt here, knowing that I could continue to take hits from this Milotic. My low tick, after I burned it though, I was like, ooh, this might actually be a little bit annoying because I can't switch to my Ferrothorn because, you know, burning my nice little Ferrothorn there would not be fun since it's one of my attackers. So I just decided to go ahead and stay in. I also can't switch into my special wall, which is my Heatran here, because Scald would still do a fair amount of damage to it. So I just stay in against it and you know, keep taking hits, keep dishing out a little bit of damage here and there. There's not really too much that I can do, just whittle it down little by little. Every little damage here does count. He continues to spam Scald, and it's so funny that I lived. I decided to stay in there hoping that I'd live. I lived with 2 HP and I go for a pain split, which is really, really nice for me. His wall, his Milotic, is definitely being whittled down here. So it's working out in my favor. It's almost dead, and I'm very excited about this because I'm like, well, that's one less wall that I'm going to have to deal with. He goes back into his Landorus, I assume, just to get the Intimidate off. But at this point, I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'm okay with losing my Dusknoir. I get off a little bit more damage with Shadow Sneak, and that did way more damage than what I thought it would, considering his attack has now dropped and my Dusknoir has no attack investments. He goes for the knockoff here, which is something I was fearing, but I didn't want any of my other Pokemon to take a knockoff at this point, so I let my Dusknoir die so that I could get a free swap into my Salamence. My Salamence this time around is actually Choice Scarfed. A lot of people, you know, were expecting Choice Scarf Moxie in previous battles, but no. He switches into his Regirock, which was something I should have predicted. I could have just went for a Choice Scarf Earthquake, which would have done a decent amount of damage, but instead I switch into a Ferrothorn. Now keep in mind, I am actually very new to facing Regirock, so I'm not sure what sets it can run, what moves it can get. He goes for a Rock Polish here, which is perfect. And then he goes for a Drain Punch, which is going to cause him to take a little bit of damage since he does outspeed now. He's healing up a bit, but Iron Barb's going to dwindle him down. Yes, it's going to whittle him down a little bit. I have Gyro Ball on my Ferrothorn, which because he used Rock Polish did a fair amount of damage there. And it activated his weakness policy, and that was alright. However, I was not expecting him to have Fire Punch. Like I said, I don't usually face Regirocks. So, although my Ferrothorn does go down, he also takes down the Regirock, which is great for me. I was happy to see that thing go down. I was unfortunate, though, that I should have looked up and saw that he could have that Fire Punch. So he goes back into his Jolteon, and I'm not exactly sure what item it had on it yet. It doesn't seem to be taking any Life Orb damage, so I assume it ended up being Scarfed. So I went into my Latias knowing that he has no Dragon Resist on his team, so I can go for a free Draco no matter what and do a lot of damage and get a kill. He switches back into Milotic and loses his Milotic, so I was still happy about that. He goes back into his Landorus here. Now, I already know it has knockoff, but this is one of those scenarios again where I was like, okay, I'm alright with losing my Latias. I didn't have to lose it here. I could have switched into someone else, but I just felt a little bit more confident with losing my Latias so that I could get a revenge kill, essentially, with my Scarfed Salamence. He goes into his Mew, and Dragon Claw almost takes it out. It's definitely looking like a defensive all bold Mew here, and there's not anything that he can do. You saw how much damage we did with that Dragon Claw there, so of course we went for another one and took out his Mew to get the Moxie boost. Now, of course, another thing I was scared about was his Jolteon having Hidden Power Ice. Instead, he switches back out into his Landorus to get the Intimidate drop, but his Landorus is not able to really take that Dragon Claw, so we get Moxie boosted yet again, despite having our attack dropped already. He goes back out into his Jolteon here, and once again, just because I'm not sure what item it's running or what other moves it has, I switch into my especially defensive wall, bring in the heat in, my Heatran here, and as you can see, he still takes a fair amount of damage, but he takes it quite well and just recovers that damage right off. At this point, I'm still starting to believe that it is a Scarf Jolteon. I do set up rocks just in case, knowing that he does have his Infernape remaining on his team. You know, anything that can take extra damage here. Plus, I run Toxic. I get that up on the Jolteon here for some extra damage. to start ticking back and forth, because at this point I'm worried that he can do something to come back and actually win this battle, because it's looking pretty fair at this point. So I start toxic stalling him using Protect just to get some HP back, hoping that I can take more hits from this Jolteon. He's still Thunderbolting, so I'm not seeing him go for anything else. So once again, it leads me to believe he's either Scarfed or Specs. I'm not sure which one, but he does have some sort of choice item. I go back into my Galvantula here, knowing that I should be able to take at least a Thunderbolt just to get another toxic tick off, and he almost takes me out. So at this point I'm like, okay, this is another Pokemon that I'm definitely willing to lose just to get another toxic tick up here. And I let my Galvantula die. So at this point, Toxic is just ticking away, doing a crap load of damage every turn on his Jolteon. I switch back into my Heatran, knowing that I can get a free Protect off. And he knows this, so he switches out into his Infernape. I should have predicted that, but just in case he was willing to give it up, I went for the Protect anyways. Fortunately for me, since he chose to switch that turn, I'm able to protect this turn against this Infernape just to kind of scout and see what he wants to do. He goes for a close combat, obviously not being able to do anything. I just get some more leftovers HP back here. And I'm like, okay, I want to save my Heatran here. So I go into Salamence, wondering if he has a choice item here. So he decides to go for a close combat, which does a little bit of damage to Salamence. I also considered running Intimidate Salamence again just to be a little bit more defensive, but I decide to go for the Moxie this battle. I go for the Earthquake, take out his Infernape, and things are looking pretty good for me, except for the fact that his Jolteon does outspeed everything on my team. But once again, I'm still not sure if he has HP Ice. He still has not used it yet at all. He has not revealed it. So I switch back into Heatran just to try to be safe. But at this point, things are actually looking good for me. I was on the edge of my seat, like not knowing where this could go. And at this point, things were just looking super, super good with all the plays that have been made. So now I can just pretty much Protect stall him just to try to go for the W. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going to sit here and Protect for just a little bit longer, switch back and forth. And since he was so close to dying here and I didn't want to lose my Heatran, I was like, well, I think Salamence with his HP, with how much he actually has remaining, I should be able to take a Thunderbolt unless it crits me. And I go ahead and send Salamence out. He barely lives it, and that ends the game. Jolteon goes down, and for the first time, week 3, Tulsa Talonflames finally has a victory against Shady. This was a very, very cool battle. I thought that my Ferrothorn was hilarious. I really enjoyed building this team this week. Make sure to check out Shady. His link will be in the description. And I will be back next week taking on Christian, I believe. So I'll see you guys. Bye.